Hello, Black women. I am here to answer a question that was left on a recent video. Like to hear it? Here it go. When should we cease using the misnomer of Black, red, white, and yellow people? I am not a lover of labels because I feel like labels confine us. I also understand the human need to put people into categories so that they know how to treat them, and I don't like it. I feel like labels categorize us to the point that we can, depending on our own life story and our own family of origin issues and our own experiences in life and our own neurology and our own psychology and our own emotional capacity and all of that, can get stuck within the box that the label has provided for us and not envision a life beyond that label. Yes. That said, I have also come to peace with understanding the usefulness of labels. And in this particular case, in a altruistic world where all was perfect and we were all working out of the same traumas, backstories, lived experiences, if we were all balls of light, that is when we could stop using those misnomers. I get it in the sense of we are all spirits, we have souls, and we live in a physical body. And by labeling the physical body by an attribute that is so shallow, honestly, the amount of melanin that's in our skin, it takes away and diminishes from the totality of the integrated human. I understand that. And I so wish that we could all just be floating around as balls of light. Because in a perfect world, in the way that God divinely has shaped us and seen, that is how he sees us. And that is how I wish we would all see ourselves. Yeah. Instead of centering one thing and making one thing more than the other thing, we centered the human experience. And all these other things were just spokes off of the wheel of the human experience. That would be beautiful. Unfortunately, in the fallen world that we live in, the labels of Black specifically, I can't talk to red, I can't talk to white, I can't talk to yellow, I can't because I have not lived within the lived experience of those labels. And even though I could conceptualize specifically the label of white and the harm that has been done with the label of white and what people who take on the label of white have had to give up to operate in that privileged position, that's also not mine to talk about. But I will say this about Blackness, right? Often the label of Black is given to people who are descendants of Africa. Yes. And those, even though all humans are descendants of Africa, I know. But people who are more markedly physically given to that descendant, yeah, meaning we're brown. Okay. So the browner the person is, the more their facial features tend to look like they're African to people, the more their hair texture, et cetera, et cetera. That is often one of the markers of what when somebody is called Black. And yes, it is complex because there are places on the planet where a person that looks just like me would not call themselves Black, nor would they be called Black. But we're not talking about that. We're making sweeping generalizations for this question to be answered, right? However, specifically, uh, Black people in the United States who are descendants of enslaved people who were brought here via the transatlantic slave trade. Yeah. They also call themselves Black. However, that Blackness is an adopted ethnicity based off of cultural norms that have been created by a resilient people whose ethnicity was stolen from them. And I say that them, but I'm also in that group, right? Because my people did not originate in the Virgin Islands where my family is from. I am not Taino. I am not Native American. I'm not indigenous to the Virgin Islands. Okay. These Black people was brought from Africa too. Black people in the United States have the name Black for their ethnicity, the label, as well as for their physical appearance, right? And they have a combination of both experiences happening when they use the word Black. Therefore, uniquely, they have a cultural expression that has been developed over years that is powerful and that is mimicked by many other cultures on the planet right now that using the label Blackness is useful for. Yes? So I will say this. One of the things I love about saying that I am for Black women is it weeds out people who do not have and or feel the need to invalidate my lived experience. Why? Because underneath the umbrella of a shared lived experience, which I can define by using that label, whether it is great to use it or not to use it is not the question that I have right now. It's how do I find my community that understands my lived experience? Because the way that our Western society is set up, it is very common for people to negate that experience. And living a life where you're perpetually negated is exhausting. It's also not a life that I want to live. And so I aim myself in that direction of using the name Black to find those people who are living the experience that I most align with. It's also the reason why I say Black and West Indian for the people that I coach, because there are non Black West Indian women who are my clients, who I coach, and who share a lived experience with me. So the answer to your question is, when should we cease using the misnomer of Black, white, red, yellow people? Is a complex one because I feel like it's a personal choice at this point. It is too complicated. There are too many moving parts. And if you, as a person, personally want to decide to stop using that, by all means, go for it. However, as a person who does not like labels, I find usefulness in it cutting through the muck and the mire to find the people who share my lived experience. There was more to their question. It said, who started this misnomer? I have no idea. I'm going to assume that it has something to do with whiteness, racism, and colonization, but I don't know, if I'm being honest. Okay. I don't know. I don't even know when white people started calling themselves white. It don't make no never no mind. Okay. It don't make no sense. But unfortunately, we're here now, is what I will say. And so I don't know who started it, but I don't think we are actually going to stop it, because you can't take an entire group of humans, plop them somewhere else over the years, have their descendants become the descendants of enslaved people, and tell them that they can't call themselves something. You can't do it. It's not a thing, right? And pretending like it doesn't exist is some sort of like gaslighting and dissociation that I can't even comprehend, okay? Because it existed when you were bringing them over here, but all of a sudden it don't exist. I can't, okay? The next question is, why did they start it? I'm going to once again say it probably has something to do with privilege, colonization, dehumanization of a certain person so that you can make sure that you can enslave them, because you have to dehumanize people to enslave them, classism, all the isms, the human propensity to try to put one on top and the other on bottom. I don't know the answer, but that's just going to be my guess. Are skin tones on the continent varied? Absolutely, they are, even without miscegenation. Correct. Yes. Um, that's just how the continent worked out. Okay. People are all the different hues. Are all people's skin tones on planet Earth between very dark and very light brown? Well, I don't know about the light brown, because there's definitely hues passing light brown for people that are from different descendants of like Nordic, etc. If you look at just, this is going to be a weird analogy, but I'm just going to say, if you look at the conversations about makeup foundation shades on the internet, the human complexion goes all the way to one side and all the way to the other side. And the side that is not on the lightest side is actually not a lightest shade. It's a peachish, pinkish, yeah, beigeish, peachy pink, pale version of that. Yes. I also don't know if that color naturally shows up on the continent per your question. I don't know if the furthest color on that scale, the lightest scale, shows up naturally on the continent. I don't know if I've actually seen it. It may, I might just not be aware of it. So the answer to your question is, in a black and white altruistic world where we were all orbs of light and not occupying a physical body, and if there had been no historical meaning assigned to the physicality that we all are existing in, and therefore there was no need for us to find people with our lived experience, maybe we could stop calling ourselves things. Yes. However, as a Caribbean born and raised human being who came to the States with a aversion to labels and has lived here for a couple plus decades, 3 decades now, 3 decades, I understand the usefulness of at least saying I'm a Black woman. I understand the usefulness of looking for people who are Black women it changes the experience that I have when I move through the world. It changes the experience I have when I walk into their space, their business, when I have conversation with them. The lived experience of a Black woman, we are exhausted with having to explain to people that our lived experience is what it is. Okay. If you understand intersectionality, you understand that the systems are set up in a way that it's just a better option to have to use the label. So unfortunately, it's a failing of man. And when I say man, I mean humans. It's a failing of humans that we cannot live up to this altruistic version that you hope can exist. Um, I wish we could. I wish we would. I know you're probably thinking, well, if you got to start with yourself. Yeah, I like finding people with my lived experience by using the label. So I'm not really sure what the answer for that is. I don't really know if this went where I thought it would go, but it is a complex conversation and a complex question. And you ended it with saying food for thought. I don't have to think about it. I've already thought about it. Matter of fact, um, it's a conscious decision on my part to say Black women, Black and West Indian women. That is who I am centering. That is who I am talking to. It is because we are often not centered, and it is hard to find spaces where we do not feel like we have to contort ourselves to be in them, right? Because people are like, they don't see it. And okay, but they say they don't see it, but the way that they show up in the space is they see it. And that's tiring, right? So we look for each other and we create community and spaces for each other so that we can just rest and exhale before we go back out into the world with people telling us they don't see a thing that they're treating us like they see. Anyway, hopefully that helped. I don't even know if this video made sense. If how I'm talking sounds right to you, I am a coach for Black and West Indian women on a healing journey. If you would like to work with me, visit thepineapplecrowns.com to find out more information. See you guys in the next one. Be well, you guys. Be encouraged. Here's a pineapple. Bye, y'all.